Hey yo, what's up guys, welcome to today's video. Today's video is gonna be about the new Graves. So some of you guys might have read in the patch notes that Graves got buffed by getting 2 flat AD, and a few patches before that he was also getting another buff on top of that. So now Graves is back to being in a viable state now. The champion is not broken, it's not like top tier, S tier, whatever, but it's no longer bottom tier either. It's like somewhat in the middle. Sometimes it'll be a really good pick, other times it won't really be that good of a pick. And basically in today's video I want to explain the build and when to pick Graves and how to path on Graves. So yeah, I played a little bit on my Smurf account here in Masters with Graves. Been enjoying it a lot and been winning mostly. Yeah, let's just go through the build. So you want to start off with a Red Smite on Graves. Again, the dueling is nice. And you'll pretty much always proc the Red Smite, so it's not really an issue. And then you put down the Trinket level 1. You can go refillable, but in my opinion, we will talk about this a bit more in depth, but if you go Fleet, you might not actually need refillable. And you can go like a control word and just a single potion. But yeah, with this setup with Dark Harvest, then I think that refillable is completely fine. Then you wanna buy Eclipse, which will be your mythic item. So I know a lot of people have been asking me like, what do I think about Shieldbow Graves? What do I think about Gale Force Graves now? And the thing is that Gale Force got nerfed. The cooldown went from 90 seconds to or from 60 seconds to 90 seconds. And with that setup, you usually would do Phase Rush, and Phase Rush in general also got nerfed. So I think Gale Force is completely out of the picture now, and you're not gonna buy Gale Force on Graves ever. And then some people have been asking me about Shieldbow, and yes, nothing really happened to Shieldbow. But in my opinion, Shieldbow is not really that good anymore. But if you end up going for Shieldbow, then you want to go with Fleet. So Shieldbow is not terrible to go, but in my opinion, Eclipse is just better overall. In terms of boots, you will either go play with Steel Caps or you'll go Mercs, depending on the enemy team comp. It's not really worth going the attack speed boots, because you have attack speed from your base runes, you have attack speed from Alacrity, and yeah, you can build attack speed from either Phantom Dancer or Mortal Reminder if you want to, but yeah, I don't think the attack speed boots is worth with this setup. Then after your Eclipse and your boots, then you want to buy either Collector or Serpent's Fang, and this basically depends. If the enemy team has shields, you go for Serpent's Fang. If the enemy doesn't have shields, then you want to go for a Collector. Then depending on what you bought as your second lethality item, if you went for a Serpent's Fang, then you want to buy a Cyrilda's Grudge, because you're no longer going to be going a crit build, so it doesn't make sense to go LDR. Whereas if you do end up going Collector, then you want to buy an LDR, because that puts you at 40% crit. And then after that, you want to buy Infinity Edge, then you have 60% crit. Whereas if you went for Serpent's Fang and Cyrilda's Grudge, which I do... actually, I could have went an LDR here, but because I did go Collector. But the reason why I don't is because they don't really have that many HP tanks. So I just went for a complete one-shot instead. But yeah, if you end up going for Serpent's Fang second, then you go Cyrilda's Grudge. After that, you can go more lethality. You're kind of allowed to build whatever item you feel like. There's not really a best item after that 4th item, so just buy whatever you feel like you need. So now let's quickly go over the runes. So we take Dark Harvest primary. You can take Electrocute instead if you want. I have seen people do it. I've been watching both Selfmade and Bippo play, and also Tarzan. I've been watching all those play Graves. And to me, in my opinion, Dark Harvest and Fleet are the best, but also the ones I've been playing the most with. Electrocute is kind of if you want to play really aggressive with Graves, so if you have a good matchup, you can invade, stuff like that, then you want to go for the Electrocute, in my opinion, if you really want to play proactive and look for something in the early game. Whereas if you kind of play a little bit more passive, then you want to go for either Dark Harvest or Fleet. You want to go Dark Harvest when the enemy team is fairly squishy and you can one-shot them. Whereas when they're not really squishy, if they're either bruisers or somewhat tanky, then you want to go for a Fleet Footwork to be able to kite a little bit better. So yeah, Dark Harvest, Sun Impact, Eyeball Collection, Relentless Hunter, and then Triumph and Alacrity is basically your rune page. In terms of the clear is pretty simple, but it's really hard to pull off. So you'll start on red buff, and then you'll do your Crux and your Raptors, and then your Wolves. Pretty normal, but then you want to go and do your blue and your Grump at the same time. It's really hard to do, so I definitely recommend like practicing in the practice tool. In terms of what you're gonna smite, you can either smite your Crux for a little bit faster clear for your first smite, or you can smite the Wolves for your first smite, and then your second smite is gonna be used on the Grump to kill the Grump. And then after you kill the Grump, while you're doing the blue, you're gonna be kiting the blue towards the Scuttlecrab. So you're not gonna have a smite for Scuttlecrab, which I am aware of, but that is intentional, because Graves has his knockback that works against the Scuttlecrab shield, so you don't really need smite in order to get the Scuttlecrab. And if you end up being contested on the Scuttlecrab that you're going for, then look at your lane prio and see if you can actually contest the Scuttlecrab or if you can't. If you do have lane prio, play really slowly. Don't like instant rush like into the enemy and like go all the way up in his face and start killing him. Just wait for your teammates to like completely shove in the wave or realize that now they're starting to move and then start going in. But if you don't have prio, then just give up the Scuttlecrab and try and go ahead and get the other Scuttlecrab on the map. So yeah, that's pretty much how you play Graves. I've been playing Graves a ton over on my stream, so if you want to see some Graves gameplay, then go over to my Twitch. I have a decent amount of games on him now. Here I have a game with Fleet, so this is the Fleet Footwork room page, in case you're wondering. In terms of when to pick Graves, and when he's strong, when he's weak, he's really good when he's playing against either heavy AD comps because of your E and your base armor stacks. And he's really good against melee champions because he is ranged. So if the enemy team has a lot of AD or a lot of melee champions, then Graves is going to be really good. The situation where he struggles are against heavy AP team comps, because Graves is not really naturally going to build that much MR. It feels kind of awkward buying MR. The only natural MR that you could get here would be from the runes here. So you would get 8 MR and then you would get Mercs. But if you have to go for a Hex Drinker, for example, that kind of delays your build a little bit. So it kind of feels awkward to go MR on Graves. And that's why he struggles against MR. And ranged, because Graves is not a super long range carry. He's actually kind of short range. So he pretty much get outranged by every single ranged champion in the game. So yeah, if you're playing against AD or melees, then pick Graves. If the enemy team has a lot of AP or if the enemy team has AD and melee, then pick Graves. If the enemy team has AP and ranged, then Graves is probably not the right pick to go for. But yeah, that's basically the Graves setup that I've been running. So if you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like. If you want to see more, then subscribe to the video, or go over on my Twitch stream and just ask for a Graves game. I'll probably play it. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys in my next YouTube video.